If you've heard about Sheriff Country and assumed it was just another small-town procedural, that reaction makes sense. On the surface, it looks familiar. A sheriff, a rural setting, cases that unfold week to week. But that surface read is exactly why this show is easy to underestimate. Because Sheriff Country is not designed to impress you quickly. It is designed to stay with you. There is a real difference between a show that grabs your attention and a show that holds it. Most television today is built around immediacy. Fast hooks, big openings, moments that demand attention right away. Sheriff Country does the opposite. It slows down, it lets scenes breathe. It builds tension in ways that are quieter but more deliberate. And if you stay with it, that approach starts to reveal something deeper. At the center of the show is Sheriff Mickey Fox. Everything runs through her. Not just the plot, but the emotional tone, the pacing, and the tension. And she is not written as a traditional lead. She does not walk into a room and dominate it. She does not project total confidence. She does not have immediate answers to every problem. Instead, she listens, she watches, she waits. That restraint becomes the foundation of the show. Because Mickey is not dealing with situations in isolation. She is dealing with situations layered with history. Every decision she makes connects to something that already exists in the town. And that town matters. This is not just a setting. It is a living part of the story. It is a place where people know each other, where relationships go back years, where history is not something that sits quietly in the background. It is something that shapes every interaction. You can feel that in the dialogue, in the pauses, in the way people speak to each other, and in the things they choose not to say. That choice to leave things unsaid is one of the most important tools the show uses. Early in the series, you begin to notice moments that feel incomplete, conversations that stop just short of something meaningful, reactions that feel stronger than expected, characters who clearly know more than they are revealing. And the show does not rush to explain those moments. It lets them sit. That creates a different kind of engagement. Instead of being told what is happening, you begin to interpret it. You begin to look for patterns. You begin to pay attention in a different way. As the episodes progress, those patterns become clearer. Names repeat, locations return. Relationships become more complex, and what seemed like separate cases begins to feel connected. This is where the structure of the show shifts. At first, it appears procedural. A case begins, it unfolds, it resolves. But beneath that structure is something more serialized. Each case reveals something about the town, about its history, and about Mickey herself. The cases are not the story. They are the lens through which the story is revealed. And that changes how you watch it. Because now the question is not just what happened. It is why it matters. Mickey does not approach situations as problems to solve. She approaches them as realities to manage. And more importantly, she manages what comes after. Because in a small town, nothing disappears once it has been dealt with. The people involved remain. The consequences remain. The relationships remain. Everything carries forward. That creates a different kind of pressure. There are moments where the law is clear, where the correct decision is obvious. But that does not make it easy, because the correct decision may hurt someone she knows, someone she has history with, someone she will see again. And the show does not simplify that conflict. It lets it exist. That is where the tension comes from. Not from action, not from spectacle, from people. There are scenes where nothing dramatic happens. No chase, no confrontation, no sudden twist. But the tension is still present. It sits in the conversation, in the pauses, in the restraint. That kind of tension requires patience. It requires performance, and it requires attention from the audience. Now consider how Mickey handles pressure. She does not react immediately. She does not escalate quickly. She absorbs, she processes, she holds things in. That creates a slow build. You begin to feel that something is going to break, but you do not know when. And when those moments finally come, they have weight, because they have been building over time. The supporting characters are not background elements. They are active forces in the story. Each one represents a different relationship to the town, different loyalties, different expectations. Some support Mickey, but that support is not unconditional. It comes with pressure, with expectation, with history. Others challenge her, question her authority, push back against her decisions. And then there are the characters tied directly to her past. These are the most significant, because they carry unresolved history. You can feel it in the way they speak to her, in the tension of their interactions, in the conversations that never fully happen. And again, the show does not rush to explain those relationships. It allows them to unfold. That is where the depth comes from. Now consider pacing. Yes, the show is slow, but it is not empty. Every scene contributes something. It builds character, it builds tension, it builds context, and that is why the show becomes more engaging the longer you watch it. Because it is not trying to win your attention immediately, it is trying to sustain it. Now think about realism. People in this show do not always make logical decisions. They make emotional decisions, incomplete decisions, sometimes flawed decisions. And that is what makes it feel authentic, because real people do not operate with perfect clarity. They operate under pressure, under history, under emotion. The escalation of the story follows that same pattern. It does not spike suddenly, it rises gradually. And that makes the turning points feel earned, because you understand how they developed. Emotional payoff works the same way. It is not built around large dramatic moments, it is built around accumulation. Small interactions, small choices, small tensions. And when those elements finally connect, the impact is stronger, because you have been part of the process. Now consider identity. Mickey is not a fixed character. She is evolving. Her role as sheriff is not something she fully controls. It is something she is constantly negotiating. That creates internal conflict, because who she is and what she has to be are not always aligned. Now consider the tension between law and loyalty. The law is meant to be consistent, objective, clear, but loyalty is personal, emotional, complicated. And in a small town, those two forces do not always align. Mickey is constantly balancing between them, and eventually she is forced to choose. As the season progresses, all of these elements begin to converge. The cases connect, the relationships tighten, the tension builds, and Mickey is forced to act. Not observe, not wait, act. And those decisions carry weight, because by that point, you understand the consequences. Now step back and look at the full picture. Sheriff Country is not trying to be loud. It is not trying to be flashy. It is trying to be consistent. It is built on character, on relationships, on atmosphere, on slow building tension. And that makes it different. It will not work for everyone, but for the right viewer, it becomes something more than background entertainment. It becomes something you follow, something you think about, something that stays with you after the episode ends. That is a different kind of engagement. And in a landscape built on immediacy, that difference matters. Final rating, 8.2 out of 10. Not because it is perfect, but because it understands what it is trying to do, and it commits to that completely.